Good. Should be recording too. All right, so what this is going to be is we're going to kind of fly through this here because this is going to be, for the majority that are on here, this is going to be a like a recap call. So I think what I would say, if we kind of set the intention, is that you know, a lot of the stuff that I talk about here should be familiar. And you know, I would just ask that nobody please screenshot this, because like I said before, I am using some copyrighted material, which is why I didn't really record the workshop in the first place. So that's just kind of on your honor system, obviously, because I can't stop you from doing that. But I would just appreciate it, because I didn't necessarily get permission to directly screenshot some of these images, you know, off the internet, and I'm trying to play by the book, and copyright infringement is freaking expensive. So please just help me out with that. You're welcome to write anything down that you want. And yeah, so I appreciate that. Okay. So like I said before, this is like really the accumulation of, you know, listening and following a lot of people in this space that know a lot. And, you know, we're going to just kind of do a quick recap back through. So like kind of what kind of water should you be drinking, how this water works inside of our bodies, how to support it, how to make sure that inside of you, you're getting the absolute best, like most efficient way of using it inside of your body, and kind of go through my rituals and really how this water works inside of us. So, you know, again, and also there's a few things that I forgot to do at the seminar, so I'm hoping to kind of remember to do them here this time. So we just got to remember that 99% of your body molecularly are water molecules. So we are more water than anything else. And so we really have to, this is the reason why this is such an important topic and why we have to pay attention to it, is because really water is the engine that drives, you know, not only a few reactions in your body or provides hydration, but it really is the engine to your quantum health, and really just how your body can be efficient and really just kind of supernatural, really, in a way. And so inside of us, right, our cells are really just wondrous, you know, things. It's just a crazy symphony of things going on, with literally, you know, tens of thousands, if not more, reactions that are happening every second, and steps and things that are taking place in each one of these, you know, really orchestrated things there. So you remember, water is the medium that not only sits outside of your cells, but it is also inside the cells. So every one of these structures that you can see here, these are organelles inside of a cell, are going to form an easy water barrier that I'll show here in a little bit. So just have to remember, it's not just like on the macro, like on the outside of our cells, but it's on the inside of our cells as well. And even like your organs, you know, as we macro out, it does actually apply on a much higher scale too. So for, you know, hundreds, if not more years, right, we have always known water exists as three phases. As solid, it's called ice. Liquid, it's called water. And then the gas is vapor. And what Dr. Gerald Pollack has recently discovered, like in the last decade, is that there's this fourth phase of water that is more gel-like, and it exists only in the body. And it's the mixture of a solid and a liquid. So it's like kind of halfway in between the ice and the water to form that gel-like structure. Now, when we're talking about water, again, we look at it from a macro perspective. When we understand that, you know, really water is really an infinite resource on our planet, and that it is recycled, and it goes through this cycle continuously. It never stops going. So between the upper mantle and the lower mantle, so like we're looking at between 100 kilometers deep down to about 3,000 kilometers deep into the Earth's crust, there exists this transition zone where, you know, really primary water is created, okay? And so then primary water, due to think of like tectonic plate movement and just literally expansion, and you have a liquid magma core of the earth that is liquid and it's moving, right? And that's changing, kind of giving shape to the world that we live on top, that we kind of reside on continuously. Sometimes we feel it, sometimes we don't, but it's pushing this water up through and into our space, if you will, or our like kind of zone that we live in. So it does it into the oceans, into streams, into lakes, into volcanoes, right? And that gets into the atmosphere, and it comes down via rain where it's collected, caught, right? And it's just this whole cycle that continuously goes. So the earth cannot run out of water, because as it's consumed by a living thing, and then as a living thing dies, well, then that water leaves it and it gets back into the cycle. So which really we are part of the cycle, but it's just this cycle is never ending. It's constantly turning and going and moving. Most importantly, this water is drawing energy, and it's collecting minerals, it's collecting information, right, as it's coming up and making this journey before it even makes it into a living thing's body like us. So it vortexes, that's the speed of water, or the direction, I should say, of water as it comes up through into, again, our living space. And what's really interesting is that normally any motion that is happening is it generates heat, right? It generates energy. So when we exercise and generate motion, right, that generates heat. When your brakes, or when your tires are turning on the road, right, that's motion energy. The tires get hotter from that, right? The engines in your car, they get hotter. All these things are happening. So, but what's interesting about water is that as it's moving this way in this vortexing motion, actually it naturally dissipates heat. So it keeps it cool, which is a really fairly unique property that water has compared to other things that exist really from a physics or an energetic standpoint in our universe. It's also collecting oxygen and the minerals. It's gaining certain frequencies. So specifically of the earth, there's something called the Schumann resonance, which is like 7 point something hertz. And it's sort of just like, I call it the base note of an energy frequency that exists in the background of our world. And so it's just like, it's what all living beings are in tune to, down to even bacteria and viruses. Okay. So it's just kind of that centering, or sort of that calibrating frequency that our earth provides, that helps orient really all life on earth, whether they realize it or not. And so it gathers certain frequencies like the Schumann resonance up through that journey. And then it also structures or creates certain frequencies and shapes. So we always think of water in a glass, like in biochemistry, when we learn this stuff in organic chemistry. It's like we would make these models and they would just be kind of this blob, right? And really, we kind of think of water, we just think of like just liquid, right? Just kind of laying in a glass, it's just there. But depending upon what type of frequencies that water has been exposed to, good or bad, those different frequencies will actually change the structure and the shape of water. And so here you can see different frequencies of, that water has been exposed to, and it takes on a different shape based on that frequency. So you can see like here, like 7.63 hertz, right? It's this kind of square shape. At 8.1 hertz, the water makes a pentagon, okay? Here at 10 or 9.8 hertz, it's like a cube. Here we got this wacky shape. It's like 3 pentagons with a cube on top of it, right? And then you got 4 So just based on the frequency, water will actually create this different molecular structure, and it will respond to that and change to it. Almost like it's adapting to the frequency that is for certain properties that it's either going to hold, or, who knows how it's interacting, right? We don't understand all of that yet. But I just think that's so fascinating, that water will literally change its shape molecularly based on the frequencies that it's exposed to. Wild. So here's a little bit of a macro version of that, in the sense that when we look at zoomed in crystals and just like a basic microscope, we can see that water actually takes on, as it takes on frequencies, it can do that based on the frequency of sound, light, words, or even emotions that we can project or even imprint on the water. So this is done by Dr. Emoto, who is a Japanese fellow scientist. And, you can see just the shape that these water crystals took based on different words or even photos that it was exposed to. So, by speaking the word angel over it, it made the halo. You can see the word peace, right? Imagine from this beautiful structure, amazing grace, spirit. But even as there was kind of more what we would consider negative forms of energy, these water crystals took on very distorted, or another word is discoherence, right? So this would be considered like coherent water, and this is considered like discoherent. So there's really no discernible shape from it. Here's some more examples of this. And what's really interesting with this one, was that this Fujiwara is a river in Japan that's kind of notoriously polluted, and even showed how it changed the structure of the polluted water to what we could say better, just by praying over it and directing that energy into it. And you got Veda Austin's work, which she's a great follow on Facebook. She posts things every day, and she'll show, a picture that she exposed the water to. And apparently you can pay money to take her class. It's not that expensive. I just haven't had time to do it yet. But you can actually learn how to use her technique. You can do it with just supplies at home, and start playing this. So love, made a little heart. And these are things you can visibly see without a microscope. I saw another picture the other day of like a dolphin, and it literally had a dolphin imprinted on there. So it's just really amazing how water can form this. This is Luc Montagnier. He is a scientist who actually, among other things, helped discover HIV. So he won a Nobel Prize in like 2008 for that. And in his later years for work, he was looking at really how water is a medium for the transmission of energy and really ultimately life, through this. So in his research article or research study that he did, he took fragmented pieces of DNA, he took like real pieces of whole DNA, and they then shot a certain frequency through that water into a test tube with just bits of DNA, so not fully structured DNA. And that allowed that water to take on, and actually took the information of fully formed DNA and transmitted that to this other water with bits of DNA, and the DNA actually structured itself and actually came together. So that's where really we begin to understand, science, right, that water holds memory, and it has the ability to transmit memory as well. So that really has a lot of implications when we think about where things are stored inside of our body, right? Maybe your traumas, maybe fond memories, right? All these things. And it really brings to life the necessity about how water is so critical really for our body, but also for our human experience, too. And you can look up more of his studies too, which are pretty cool. So this is the process that I take with water in my life, right? And I pretty much do all of these every single time. Sometimes for time or just supplies, I might not do every single one of these. And what I would say, too, is that if your water looks nothing like this, even just doing a couple of these steps here, which, a lot of them you could do for free or basically nothing, right, would enhance your water experience and make it healthier for you. So in terms of what we start with in our house, now this is not what we drink anymore, but just in terms of like what we shower, what we clean with, what we wash our hands with, right? Things like that. I use a reverse osmosis system that's hooked up in my garage to our main water line. So it comes in from this left side here, and it runs through these tanks here to filter it. It gets fluoride out, all the minerals and just junk right there, right before it hits our faucet. So again, this is kind of what we use just for clean living inside of our house. Now, in terms of drinking, we use Mountain Valley, which just as a refresher is it's taken from a spring in a state park, and it's on the name of it's on the bottle, so I can't remember what the name of the state park is. But anyways, there is a massive buffer of of just nature. So like no technology, no industry, right? And so they bottle this in glass from the source, right? And then it's transported to your door. So, and we live in a world of increasing plastic. And I think about, how many gallons of this stuff my family drinks a week. It's like, well, at least by drinking out of, these glass jars, we're at least not getting that much extra exposure to plastic. And I am looking at some other systems still. Haven't had a chance since the seminar. But that's kind of like on my things to do there. So started by filtering. Second step is vortexing it. So I'm kind of lazy. And as I really started nerding out on this thing, I was like, well, let me just get something to do it for me. So I bought this Mayu vortexer. So you just put this kind of glass quartz carafe on top of this thing, and it uses magnets inside of it to spin it. And it creates this vortexing process. So it literally spins the water and just really, like it's going up through the center of the earth, right into our zone. It's vortexing, it's spinning, so it's recreating that. And remember, water has memory, so I kind of think of this like it's like remembering, it's like reminding water like who it is or like what it is and where it came from. So it's kind of like bringing it back to life, bringing it back to its source. So I do this to the Mountain Valley still. However, even if you didn't do Mountain Valley, if you just took some other kind of filtered water and then put this on there, like that's going to bring that dead water potentially to life. But you can also mimic this by taking a water bottle with a cap on and shaking it. And if you do that, if you notice, you look on the inside, it makes the water spin. So you'd think that by, I'm not going to do my glass, but if you think about making the water go up and down, you would just see the water go like this. But by shaking it, actually makes it spin, which is, I think, just really cool that it does that. So next step is remineralizing. Now, if you're doing Mountain Valley, right, you kind of technically don't need to do this. However, we as human beings are severely demineralized, I guess, for lack of a better term. I mean, unless you've just been doing this stuff perfectly from the get-go, really our environment causes mineral imbalances like crazy, because a lot of them, like magnesium, just as one example, gets burned excessively when we're under stress. So, I mean, basically assume that if you're under stress, okay, your body is going to need excess minerals or extra minerals to make up for the lack that we get in our, through our environment, or I should say at a minimum, the amount that gets depleted through our sick environment. So I put these ketone minerals in there. A couple questions I got as people were kind of looking for these is like, well, there's hypertonic, there's isotonic. What's the difference? I don't really know for sure, but I think that the hypertonic is slightly more like higher on the mineral content, but either one are good for you. Okay. So what I do is I just bounce back and forth. So I use the hypertonic. When I use all of that, I'll go to the isotonic. I have no specific knowledgeable reason for that, other than I was like, well, I'm just going to kind of cycle through different ones. I'm not doing this every single time. But I'm using it multiple times per week. And again, if you didn't want to spend the money on this, you could just put salt in your water, which would do a lot of the same thing. Okay. Shilajit, I've talked about that a lot. I like that. It comes straight from the earth. It's a resin that just literally oozes out of the mountains. A lot of people have been complaining to me about how it tastes. And like, look, I get it, but I mean, what would you expect that 85 minerals in their naturally occurring states would taste like? Okay, it's like you have a lot going on in there. There's a lot of good things in there, so it's like, I'm sorry, but not sorry, because it just is what it is. And it's really pure carbon, so it's like from the earth, right? Like pure carbon. It's actually something called carbon-60, which has a lot of processes in terms of delivering energy into your body. But again, other ways to get that: seafood, another great way, because obviously you're getting seafood, seawater, right? Celtic sea salt, and then, eating healthy meats, of course. If those animals are eating lots of grass and from the earth and in a regenerative process, right, you're going to be getting their benefits too, as they donate them to you. All right, then we structure it. So this has primary water inside of it. So remember, back to here. In Croatia, there's I want kind of a mine shaft, but I'm just going to call it that for lack of a better term, where they can get straight down into the primary water, and then they extract it and they make sure it's imprinted fully. That's what you got inside the analemma wand. And then it has a quartz crystal around it, which helps to easily transmit the electromagnetic frequencies that primary water has into your water. So remember, water takes on the electromagnetic frequencies from, remember Luc, Dr. Montigny's work here, okay, right? So it imprints, and those frequencies are transmitted into your water. So it's like it turns your water into primary water. So it's got 14 years of research. They found that when you do this to water, it holds that structure of water for 5 years. They literally sat it on a countertop for 5 years, and it kept that primary water structure. And it showed that it was completely buffered against 5G. So I kind of, how I look at this is that if you're drinking this, and we're made up of 99% water, and you're one of those people that's afraid of non-native EMFs, which, I think is definitely something to be aware of and mitigate, especially if you're one of the 5G kind of nut jobs out there. Like, this is a way to make your body more fortified and resistant against that 5G. So analemma wand, I love this thing. Stirring my water. In fact, what I got in here, I did this right before I got on, as I did my wand in that water there. And I will, actually, I'm going to do it right now. 1 second. A lot of the stuff that I'm talking about, I do have a link to, with a discount code for a lot of them. So I just dropped it in the chat. If you want to take a look at that at some point, you can go on there and you'll see analemma wand and a lot of other things that I talk about. So they did a study on this and looking at biological age, and they found that people that drank 1 liter of this per day, so about 35 ounces, had their biological age reversed, which is so cool. I'm going to kind of skip through this. Okay. So the water really brought life, physically life into these people's bodies, just like it would for yours. And then last step is to bless it. All right. Just like we said. So again, if you're here, think about drinking. Would you rather drink water crystals like this, or that are coherent, right, and have a shape and a beautiful structure to it, or not? And you're putting that inside of your body. So this also, too, I mean, if you wanted to really press me on this, like, I think we could look at from a scientific perspective, how and why prayer works for healing, or I'm going to say, being blessed, right? Is that, I would say that we could start explaining it now from the standpoint, could we not, of knowing that if we do that to water crystals on the outside, well, then why can that not happen to us water crystals on the inside? So I didn't really flesh that out super strongly at the talk, but really, it's like, I think for me, it gives like blessing and thoughts and emotions and prayer for myself and for my family and for others, right? A kind of a whole new, almost tangible aspect in a way to look at that. So I don't know if kind of everybody else sort of thinks about it that same way, but I think, however, for you, however you kind of can rationalize that or internalize that a little bit. In either way, it's pretty cool. And I have a lot of people that were sending me pictures like with their water, and like they put a sign of like being blessed or love or whatever on that. So again, you could even do something as simple as taking like your water bottle that you drink out of and writing on it, okay, like in Sharpie marker, or like even put a sticker on it that has words that are emotions that like speak to you, right? Or maybe it's a goal or a focus that you have right now, in drinking that. So again, I think that's wild. I mean, obviously that's free to do, and I think there's no harm, and there's probably only benefits from it. All right, and then you drink it, of course. So again, I mentioned this at the talk, but a common question that people ask is, well, how much should I drink? And I think the key with that is you drink as much until you're not thirsty, right? Or drink when you are thirsty. So I think too many people are trying to like make everything that we do so measured and calculated and like mechanistic, right? Like if you notice, our world is very mechanistic, right? So you get lab work done in the medical system. Your lab results are abnormal. Boop, 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 boop. Then you take this much amount of a medication, right? And so what we really want to look at the world is from a vitalistic perspective and realize that mechanism looks at your body is just the sum of its parts, right? So it's like each little thing is like a machine. You think about like the gear turns over here that turns the gear, versus from a vitalism perspective, we're really looking at the whole structure as a whole. And when you can really see your life, not only in how you interact with the world, but how you take care of your health, take care of your family, and look at it from a vitalistic perspective. I mean, really, that's the way that our universe, our world was designed to operate, was from a vitalistic perspective too. So, anyways, that's a little tangent, but bottom line is drink as much as you are as when you're thirsty, and then you're good. Most people, I would say, drink too much water, which that can have the consequence of throwing off your mineral imbalances. Okay, so like these people are drinking a gallon of water a day, totally unnecessary. In fact, healthy people really don't even need close to that. Okay, so by pushing out through your kidneys there, you're going to be also pushing out minerals in your body, because every single time your kidneys have to get rid of that excess water, right? And part of how they get rid of that water is you have hormones that are being used in your kidneys to drive these waters through the kidney and out through the ureter and then out through how you pee. Minerals are required and vitamins are required to make those processes happen. So the more you're running your kidneys, the more you're using minerals. So just remember that. Okay, so if anything, you guys are not eating enough salt. So really, it's more about keeping your water and retaining it, more than having to be continuously replenishing it at the volumes that you are. So how this water lives in us. Okay, this is where it starts to get kind of cool here. So remember, we have an electron transport chain happens inside of our mitochondria. There's all these different steps. On the fourth step of this, water is actually created. So you can see that right there. Okay, so that's water is created during that thing. So your body actually makes water. So that's why I'm saying, like, when you are healthy, when your mitochondria are working the way that they're supposed to, your body is literally producing water inside of it. And how does it produce that? Well, you get electrons in, and then that is activated by oxygen. So through our breath, okay, breathing, inhalation, and then light, like red light from the sun. Okay, and that's the only source. I guess you could also say infrared light panels would also do the same thing. So remember, this is our mitochondria that we're talking about. And the mitochondria are the most important part of our cell and arguably the most important part of our body. So if you're healthy, your mitochondria are working great, and this process is happening effortlessly inside of your body. Sorry, it's been a long day. Okay, I'll go back and answer some questions here in a second, because I went a few in the chat there, but I just want to stay on track here. So so again, healthy person, healthy mitochondria, this process is happening effortlessly, and therefore your body's making this without issue. Now, when you have autoimmune conditions or health issues, right, or simply does not function optimally, your mitochondria are not functioning optimally, so therefore then you're not receiving these full benefits. So again, if you want to get to the root cause of issues, you got to always look at, how do I support my mitochondria? And like what I'm going to be talking about in my cancer workshop, my immune system workshop next month in November, which I'll talk about at the end, you're going to see that It's the mitochondrial breakdown and dysfunction and the adaptive process that happens with that leads to what we call cancer cells, but really they're just adapted physiology and adapted cells to an improper cell and organelle environment. So energy in, water, and ATP, which is a different kind of energy, out. So we get carbon dioxide, infrared heat, okay, with all this. So it also generates heat. Now, in our water, alongside every membrane, so remember when I went back to this picture here, alongside every one of these structures that you see that have a cell or an organelle wall there, right? This process that I'm about to go through is happening. Okay, so you can see this black line right here. That is, in the lab, was demonstrated to form like a cell wall. It's kind of a similar mimicking that structure. So remember, this forms what's called an exclusion zone. So what it's excluding is it's excluding the electrons from the protons, as well as the neutrons, but mainly the electrons from the protons. So the wider or the more expansive this EZ zone is, the more you're sequestering and moving protons away, which protons are inflammatory to the body. They are most prevalent in diseased or dysfunctional cells or organs, okay? So the more that we are sequestering them or excluding them from the parts of our body that we want to be healthy, right? Then the more of these electrons then can interact appropriately with the cell on the inside and make them healthy and do what they're supposed to, okay? So that's all a fancy way to say that more easy water, better, okay? Because you're gonna have more electrons and ultimately more health wherever that is taking place inside the body. So it will literally line up the water in these areas and will form these honeycomb-like layers, okay? It literally looks like, on this microscope, it looks like honeycomb layers, okay? Slicing back and forth in this hexagonal or hexagonal pattern here, 6 sides, right? So they all line up and they form this like lattice in connecting, which is just so cool. So they structure into this for proper electron transportation, okay? Or sorry, storing, okay? With that. So here's kind of like I was saying, so this water here forms those honeycombs. You can see these like kind of blue lines along here, all right? And then the electrons are taking place in that, and then you got the protons that are lining up on this barrier here, okay? Because remember, protons and electrons kind of attract each other, with that, but they also can stay separated via charge. So easy water is negatively charged. Okay, typical water, like coming out of your tap, is going to be neutral. Remember, negative means electron charge, not like negative like bad, all right? This non-structured water, which is what over on the right side here is also referred to bulk water. And remember, your cells need negative charge for energy. That's I just kind of talked about that. And so when it becomes more positively charged, functions begin to shut down or break down inside of it. And the cell has to become more selective into how it's operating. So somebody used the analogy of like low power mode on your phone. It's like when you get below a certain percent, this lower power mode is an option. And when it does that, it does not do continuous tasks, right? So it doesn't just search for emails to download, does not just freely transmit data or download apps in the background, whatever it is. So it will do it. It'll just do the basic primary function. So this is the same thing with your negatively or your positively charged cells that will begin to have to prioritize function because there's so much energy to go around. So again, I'm not going to get in too much in the cancer role here, but I'm just kind of giving a little preview because that's what I've been studying for the past couple of weeks and really ramping up for this. But it shows how cancer is positively charged cells inside of our body. And so, well, what is a cancer cell? It's a cell that can't do its normal function. So it focuses on basically 2 things: energy consumption and replication, which is its survival. So they don't live very long, so they replicate quickly. And in order to do that, they require a tremendous amount of energy in order to create that process. So that's why cancer cells love sugar, because they go through, instead of they going through respiration. So instead of cancer cells, or sorry, your normal healthy cells will go through this process here in your mitochondria to produce energy for itself. It's going to do a much more inefficient but quicker process called fermentation. I lost my slide here. Where was I? Here we go. Which is an inefficient energy source, and it produces about 1/13 the amount of energy that the normal process does. So it requires that sugar to come in like crazy to keep that process driving. So I'm really going to go into that in detail in my seminar next month, which will be live only because I hate filming and I'm not going to do it like this. So this is different. All right. So it becomes a semiconductor for electrons. So it means it's allowing electrons to flow through that, right? And transport, and they can actually literally be created in this process, which is amazing. So really you can get infinite sources of energy from this process. When UV light hits your cells, hits your body there, it gets trapped. The energy of that gets trapped in this gel, in this easy water. Those electrons get trapped in there. We absorb it like a battery. Okay, literally, like think about this easy water is like a battery for yourself. So it's storing energy for when you need it, or for when your cells or your organelles might need it. And sunlight is the primary driver. UV light and infrared light are the primary drivers for your body to hit that, right, and capture that. So we know that plants undergo a process called photosynthesis, that when sun hits the chloroplasts, okay, which is the plant's version of mitochondria in the leaves or in the stalk or whatever, the green stuff, right? When it hits that, when it's combined with water and with CO2, all right, because remember, plants need CO2, they then give out energy and sugar and oxygen, all right? So they kind of do a reverse process, but complementary to what we do as humans. So we never thought that human beings had that same capability. So we always thought we had to eat in order to get energy, right? But they've actually been showing now that your mitochondria have the ability to do the exact same thing like chloroplasts. They can take light in from the sun or infrared light panels, okay, and other ways too, and generate, okay, energy from this that your body knows. So when you say we need to eat, the only reason why we need to do that is because our body is continuously using energy, and therefore we need to replenish those energy stores so it can continue to operate. It's not because your body's hunger is only one way that your brain is sensing an energy need, right? And so it's telling to consume through that in. But why is it that people who do water, if that's the only way to do it, then why is it that people can water fast for months even, or breatharians can just do highly oxygenated or concentrated forms of breathing to get oxygen in, don't need to eat as much as the rest of us in order to have their energy requirements, okay? So just remember, ultimately your food turns into, I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth because it's easy for me in this presentation. Ultimately, your food is just going through this channel here to produce energy. What it comes out here at ATP, it doesn't really matter what you eat. I mean, there are different forms that are higher energy sources, right? But ultimately, whether it's a pork chop or a burger or a piece of fruit, it ultimately ends up as the exact same thing at the end, which is energy. And so if you're getting proper amounts of energy from other sources, then guess what? You also don't need to eat as much. And when I was out in the sun a ton, especially on vacation and stuff over the summer, like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, what was interesting is that I also realized, and I never kind of paid attention to this before, but my appetite was not as strong when I was out in the sun as much. So you guys can pay attention to that too. So it traps positive frequencies, right? And literally creates a battery inside of your body. They've been able to power light bulbs by hooking up into this bulk water, easy water, because that's ultimately a battery is you have a negatively charged side ion and a positively charged, and it's the flow that happens through that creates energy. So pretty cool stuff. So when we lose easy water, right, we lose our body's ability to be a battery to store energy. We lose the ability to have healthy functioning cells because our cells begin to have more protons, positively charged, more inflammatory. So how do we optimize this easy water in our body? Because it's clearly very important, because I want to leave some time for questions here. So you drink natural spring or mineral water. Again, I like Mountain Valley. I was joking after the workshop, I'm like, man, I wish there was an affiliate code for that water, because like I know like 40 people that started ordering it. But anyways, it's all good. Even if I got like a free jar or something. Glyphosate, pesticides, fluoride, heavy metals, huge things to avoid. All right. I would potentially even now say that I used to say heavy metals, like mercury specifically, was the most toxic substance that you could potentially regularly be exposed to on planet Earth as a human. I now believe that glyphosate probably is worse than that, because it actually affects the body in more ways, not just the brain, but or the nervous system, but literally like everything. And unfortunately, it's also like the most prevalent toxin, especially in our food supply. And so it's becoming increasingly difficult to avoid, right? So look at Stephanie Seneff if you want to learn more about that. Stephanie Seneff, PhD, and she is out of MIT. Yes, I believe it's MIT. Super smart lady. Amazing work on that. It's a little depressing, to be honest, because some of the stuff we just can't avoid, but that's why we got to live healthy, because this stuff just ruins us. Again, being properly mineralized helps to increase your easy water zones. Turmeric has been shown to directly affect this. Okay, they studied that and they've proven that. Also, fulvic or humic acid, which is a natural mineral kind of chelator, and it's actually very prevalent in Shilajit. Again, another reason why I like Shilajit. Healthy fats, okay, because along with that buffer, so your cell walls are made out of what's called a lipid bilayer. So it's 2 layers, lipid fat, bi meaning 2 layer, where you have hydrophilic heads, meaning they love water, and they have hydrophobic tails that go in like this, okay? And so again, that's the healthier those cells are, the cell walls are there, then the better that water can make that barrier around that, in that zone around it. And then eating probiotics are very good too, because probiotics actually have they give off their own frequencies as well, which could be a whole nother talk. Getting sunlight, huge. Again, you guys, you know me, I've been talking about that really prominently for a year. This is your number one nutrient or supplement. It needs to be is light. Okay. So that produces heat in the body. Cuddling, huge, right? So the more our mitochondria have heat coming in, red light, okay, kind of with this, if you will, the more it drives this process through our mitochondria. So being with your loved ones, right? Again, it's like, how do we know, and why do we know something like a hug heals you, and why physical touch is so important is that it's, among many things, it helps to, share electrons, but also you're generating heat in that way too. So full spectrum light from the sun, infrared panels like the EMR Tech. Okay, this is my at-home one that I use. I'm going to use that a little bit later tonight. I also have red light bulbs in my room, even though I have my blue light blocking glasses on. Anyways, that's another talk as well. Cold exposure is huge for this. This is great for this time of year. Obviously, it's colder out. So this whole business about when your grandma said you're going to catch a cold if you're on the cold literally couldn't be further from the truth. Cold actually strengthens your immune system. Okay, so it's a bunch of crap. The reason why you get sick in the winter is because not because you get exposed to cold or you forget to wear your hat or gloves or your whatever, your long underwear, but it's because you get less vitamin D, You're inside more, getting more artificial light. All right, you're covered because you're covered up more. You don't go outside as much. You're eating more crap, right? You're more stressed, most likely, all those things. That's why you get sick. That's why it's flu season in the wintertime. It's viruses and bacteria like heat. They like our bodies, which are 98.6 degrees. So how could they survive in a 30? It just doesn't make sense. Just don't be dumb, and don't listen to dumb people. Use wisdom, okay, more than information. And then earthing and grounding. The reason why that's so important is you're bringing electrons into your body when you do that. So you're just kind of drawing them in through that as well. So that's free. It's easy. Literally within 30 seconds of grounding, they found that your blood flows better and your nervous system balances even better as well. So it's something, if you're ever feeling off, just go outside and sorry, I'm petting my dog here. That's why I'm doing this, rocking back and forth. So that's why it's grounding is just, it's so easy and so beneficial to do. Salt. Remember, for minerals, okay, I like Selena naturally, or the Celtic sea salt. They literally gather this naturally from places where vortex and structured water occurs naturally. And then the sun dries it out, on these like flats, right? And it evaporates, and it's left with salt crystals. So it's literally like consuming structured water with minerals that support your body. So I love this stuff here. And salt is so cheap, really, like even super high quality salt is super cheap. And so that's a great place to get minerals, and really cheap and free. And versus getting a mineral supplement, why not just get something that's occurring naturally in nature, like salt is, or shilajit, okay, which is another one. So 85 trace minerals, naturally occurring proportions. That's the key, right? So this is like mineral composition that nature provides for us. Carbon-60, so it chelates heavy metals, decalcifies the pineal gland. Had a friend ask me if that like helps with intuition. And many cultures call the pineal gland your third eye. It's like kind of your ability to like, or if you're more like Western, you could say it's like your ability to like be in tune with the Holy Spirit. If you wanted to kind of look at it that way, that's really like scientifically kind of how I would say the pineal gland really kind of works, operates. Helps your mitochondria. I mean, these all have research. I'm not going to go through this because I did at the seminar, but shilajit is great, and it's relatively cheap for what it is. Like, it lasts for a long time. Yeah, it doesn't taste great, but you're getting a ton of benefits in using it. Yeah, it's a little sticky and hard to work with, but if you put some spring water in there, it'll make it a little bit gooier and more liquidy, easier to work with. So good stuff. All right. So just as I wrap up here before we go into questions. So I do have some tickets, early bird tickets left, meaning before the price will go up.
For a couple weeks.
Nope, somebody needs to mute there, please. I don't know how to mute you. There we go. I think it's fixed. Sorry about that. This cancer workshop here, or this immune system workshop, is more specifically, I'm just going to be talking about cancer a lot, because there's a lot of new stuff that you guys need to know about this. But really how to fortify your body in general. As I've been saying, is that the immune system is like one of the systems in your body that you do not pay attention to enough until it starts going awry. And it's just getting harder to be healthy in the environment that we live in. I mean, I just heard a story about one of my sister's friends who's a chiropractor in North Dakota, and she's like 12 weeks pregnant, super healthy, eats the way that we do, right? And just found out that she has cancer. So she has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and she's pregnant at 12 weeks. So just crazy stuff. And this is not to like, oh, like I'm scared about getting cancer, so therefore I have to learn these things. It's like, well, no, it's like, how do I strengthen and empower my body? And for me, I'm looking for every single stinking edge that I can get, because we live in a really messed up world, and it's getting harder and harder and harder to be healthy. And so we have to be super proactive about this stuff, because while yes, we can be reactive naturally and still accomplish a lot and get great changes. My favorite kind of miracle is the one that never has to happen. Better than seeing someone's cancer or their autoimmune condition reverse, my favorite story is the person that never got cancer or the autoimmune condition in the first place. So the link to that workshop, it's on November 12th. The link to that workshop is in that link tree thing that I'm going to repost here, because it didn't show up. I only sent it to one person apparently by accident. So I just put that in there. The link to register for that workshop is at the very top of that link that you see there. Also in there is a link to buy the Analemma wand if you want that, and the discount code with that. Also in there is a link to an infrared panel, the EMR one, if you want to get that. Also in there is a affiliate discount link to the blue light blocking glasses that I like as well. So anyways, and or to schedule consults with me, whatever you need, that's all in there as well. But if you have not gotten tickets to this yet, I would do that. If you have a friend that you think is going to want to come, even if you're not sure they want to come, I would get them a ticket now before they go up in price. And if worse comes to worse, if they don't want to come with you, I mean, we'll refund it. It's not a big deal for that. So where do I get my Quinton from? I got it from a website called waterandwellness.com. There's a lot of places that carry it. Another one is called Quicksilver Scientific. But there's that website right there for where I got my Quinton minerals. I just launched this today, actually, so I can officially say live now. It's not like fully set up, meaning it's not like super pretty in there, but I got the lights all where they need to be at least. And so we have a 2,000 watt near infrared light devices. So it's literally 10 times as powerful as one of these right here in there. So I had my first patient use it today. My first official patient, if you will. Actually had a couple of use it today. And then there's also the vitamin D lamp in there as well. So that generates about 4,000 to 5,000 IUs in a 5-minute session. Very powerful, which is amazing. That's the way you want to supplement vitamin D if you can't get enough from being outside, is through a UVB and UVA sun lamp like this. I no longer take vitamin D supplements, and I really don't recommend hardly anybody do that unless you're scary deficient, which I had a patient that had blood work that showed up like that today. So I had her, she's going to supplement for a couple months, but I told her, as soon as we get you like in the 30s or the 40s, we got to put you all back on the natural thing completely. So I don't take outside vitamin D in anymore. So it's about 15 minutes, okay, and you can hit your whole body with that and get that infrared light exposure, which helps to boost your mitochondrial function, collagen production. It's anti-inflammatory, and there's a whole host of other things too. So if you're interested in that, you can message me and I can get you more information. So I think it's $20 for a 15-minute session, or if you want to buy a pack of 10, it's $15 for a pack in a pack of 10. So $150 if you want to do that, which is actually way cheaper than other places around here that's doing it, just for comparison's sake. But maybe mine won't look as pretty, but anyways, that's pretty much it. So let me take some time for questions here. I'll take like 10-15 minutes for them. You can either type them in, or if you're brave enough, you can unmute yourself and put your video on, or even just, you don't have to put your video on. You can just unmute and ask your question. Anything I can clarify or try to explain more? Yeah, Himalayan pink salts is a question. What about them? Those are fine too. What I like about Selena Naturally is they test for plastics, microplastics. and they have super low. So I'm not sure about Himalayan pink salts or real salt that does that. They probably do, I would imagine, but I can't say for sure. I just have actually seen the Celtic sea salts testing. But from just a pure mineral standpoint, like those would be great. Yeah. Good question. What time is the seminar? It's in the link that I posted. I forget. Did I say 9? 9:30 to noon. It's in the link though that I posted. While we're waiting for questions too, what I would love for people to type as well is what like either the most fascinating thing that they've learned about water over the past couple weeks, most interesting, or the biggest thing they're going to change, just like whatever's like kind of, I would just love to see that, because that helps me know like what to focus on. As I kind of do this seminar maybe forward. So another question came in that asked about being concerned with the radon in the water. Yeah, but theoretically, if you're dealing with it properly, it's going to sequester and actually push all that out. So that I'm not positive on that. But I'm just saying in theory, so don't take this as like gospel truth on this, is that it would handle the water properly if the radon, in the water properly if the water is healthy and has structure and the right minerals. Somavedic device. Yeah, so the Somavedic, I think I'm familiar with things like this. I have heard of this one, but I'm not sure about it. So how I'm looking at this now, Natasha, is that like I'm really looking at like how do I make my body a living, breathing, walking EMF mitigation device. So like my primary concern is that. But those things are legit. I don't know about that one specifically. Drinking structured water only. Awesome. Pisanos, you guys are rock stars. Take a couple. Was this follow-up helpful? I think there was a few new people that got in here. So you got to experience the quick and dirty version for the first time, but hopefully for those of you that came to the seminar last couple weeks ago, whenever that was, that you got a lot more out of it the second time through. And I can't stress enough to make clear your schedule to come to that immune system workshop in November. You're welcome, Alyssa. No problem. I'm glad you could get on here. I will not be streaming the immune system workshop. I had a terrible experience last time, and I will probably never do it again. Discount code for the wand. Yeah, it should be you go in that link tree there and click on the Analemma water wand. And if you run it all the way through to purchase it, it should apply it in the shopping cart. What about a recap? We'll see. It's a lot of extra work, and I only have so much energy and time to do these things too. It's like usually when I put like, I'm probably going to put about 80 hours into that. And it's like, I mean, I'm willing to do it, but it's like to put another 1 to 2 into doing a stream afterwards, just kind of like, it's a lot, especially as we're getting close to the holidays and I'm trying to wrap things up. So we'll see, but no guarantees. I tell you what, too, it's just never the same as being there in person. Like, I don't care what anybody says. I don't care how good the pastor or the preacher is. It's not the same hearing it on a computer screen as it is being in person. So, and that's just my opinion, I guess, but I think some of you would probably agree with me on that too. You just don't get the same out of it. Too many distractions. Anyways, I'm not going to go on that. So, all right, rock on. Well, as always, here's my email, and feel free to ask any further questions in through that. And thanks you guys for hopping on here tonight. Be blessed. Take care.